Sister Shireen, and thank you so much for joining. And before I proceed to give it to you, as always, we have the tradition of introducing you because you're joining us for the first time. And also, as a poem, a few words for you. So first,
Oh,
let's be.
thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure she has. I have seen her ages ago on one of the programs in television. I think that was Release Your Wings. Yeah, that was the program. Yeah, it was running, and it was a lot of different recipes you used to share. I think I remember that. Yeah. So let's see what Sister Shireen has been doing into Brahma Kumari. She has had almost 35 years commitment now. She has engaged in advanced spiritual practice for more than 30 years. And she likes to mention that she's accumulated a remarkable 20,000 hours of meditation experience, you can imagine. And you can look at her face and her, in the poem, I'll mention a few things which will elaborate more on that. She's the author of 4 unique books on meditation, to name them: Soul Fitness, Oh My Goodness, True Hollywood Blockbuster, and Experience the Divine. No, I'm not creating a tongue twister. That's the word, experience. So something experience, and this is experience. So she can tell us, experience the divine. Beautiful word. Another word for next time, if I want to write a poem, beautiful word. She's also authored 3 popular meditation albums and a deck of spiritual power cards. And she designs and facilitates many meditation retreats and workshops. And she's also the creator and presenter. I mentioned about that YouTube channel, Release Your Wings. I think you can just Google, put on YouTube, you'll get those programs. And I must say, she also has mentioned that she presents intelligent, refreshingly creative, and unmistakably authentic wisdom to powerfully uplift the soul. So I'm sure we'll experience that in the talk next hour. And as always, the poem. So today our special guest from Florida is Sister Shireen. Her presence is indeed so powerful, divine, and pristine. You can sense the vibrations through her, which are indeed so serene, as if entering a place which is as pure as a shrine. She shall teach us the technique on how to look at the mind screen so that we can witness as a detached observer in life every scene, not getting affected by people's behaviors, which can sometimes be very mean, whereby we get carried away by the outward glow and sheen. So now let's lead a life knowing exactly our role, unlike a teen, no more teenagers we are, so that we can reign on ourselves like a king and a queen. And we shall then find the grass everywhere to be green and not have any regrets in life whatsoever in between. So with this, I would like to invite Sister Shireen. All the stage is all yours. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful poem. I want to clap. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. I'm going to put you in gallery mode. Give me a second there. I can see all of you. It is my great pleasure to be here with you. And safety as a virtue, as a value, seems very esoteric, actually, because you don't think about it. As Manoj Bhai was saying, you don't really think about it as a value too often. I was reminded of an incident that happened in my life when I was thinking about this value. I was in Peace Village, our retreat center in upstate New York. And what happened in Peace Village is, I don't know what happened in Peace Village, but every time I touched something, even a door, right? Like if my hand touched some door, I was bruising very badly, like anything, right? My whole body was full of bruises. And so I came back from Peace Village and I talked to one of our BK doctors here. And he said, you need to immediately, it was a holiday, and he said, you need to go immediately to the emergency room because you are bruising everywhere. I said, no, it's not that urgent. Don't worry about it. I'll go whenever, right? So it took me a couple of days to go to the doctor. And then the doctor did blood work. And so this is 2-3 days later, right? So I'm sitting in Amritvela. Oh, Amritvela, I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm sitting in our morning meditation. It's early morning meditation. And I am having a spiritual chit chat with the Supreme. And the feeling at that time when I was spiritually chit chatting with the Supreme was that the body was dying. And I was telling God, I think the body is, I'm leaving the body is dying. And so, would you believe it, at 4:15 in the morning, which is very unusual, we get a call from the lab that did my blood work. And the lab called and said, you right away need to go to emergency. You right away, absolutely right away need to go to emergency. So go to the emergency, and I'm still taking my time to go to emergency, right? Because I knew if I go to the hospital, showers and all of that will be hard. So I took a shower, did everything. And so going to emergency, and the nurse, so they admit me into the, so there is a waiting area in the US for emergency. You don't get admitted in the hospital right away. There is an emergency, like beds, like you have curtains, and I'm sleeping there, and the nurse comes in, and she has such a pitiful expression on her face, right? Like she knew something I didn't know. And I wasn't even noticing the pitiful expression on her face. All I could ask her was, what is your Wi-Fi password? I wasn't thinking about anything else. Anyway, finally, they admitted me into, they said the hematologist, because it was early in the morning, they had to finally get the hematologist, and the hematologist came and said she needs to be admitted into the hospital right away. So I'm getting admitted into the hospital, and I'm still worried about the Wi-Fi password. So what happened was, finally admitted into the hospital, and the hematologist came and spoke to me, and I understood the gravity of the situation. That the gravity of the situation was that my organs were failing, and if they don't do something like urgently, then the body is not going to survive. And so the hematologist came and said, oh, we need to pump you with steroids, and we need to give you all of these other medicines. And so I said, oh, I don't believe in drugs. And he was so serious. He said, you want to live, or you want to, so he said, these are medicines, these are not drugs. You want to live, or you want this? Which one? Pick a choice, make a choice, because you need to make a choice right away. We don't have time for you to, give me a lecture on drugs. And so anyway, so we decided, like, okay, I will go with the steroids and everything. So they had to, so the immune system was failing. We don't know what happened. It was idiopathic. Idiopathic means they didn't, I'm sure Manoj will tell you, the immune system was failing and they didn't know what was going on with it. And so they had to pump the body with steroids. And in that, so I was in the hospital for a long time at that point. And what happened was, the way I went into the hospital, the way I was feeling spiritually and how I was feeling was so elevated. And then the body got pumped with steroids, and you realize how much what you put into the body really affects the soul. Because then the stage or the feeling of being elevated, being in a good consciousness, was coming down because of the steroids that were just like heavy duty steroids that were pumping the body with. And so in that state, though, this is what happened. And this is where I'm going with this story. In that state of the body being pumped with steroids, and it's at night, I'm alone in the room. So before, there were all of the brothers and sisters coming and going, but this is at night and I'm alone in the room. And in that state, I slipped into what I call the spiritual world. And so we are so aware of just the physical world, right? We are aware of the computer in front of us. We are aware of the phone. We are aware of water, and we are aware of everything physical in front of us. But what I noticed at that time, that was my first realization and my first entry, is what I noticed at that time is that there is a spiritual world in front of us. So everything you see with your eyes is the physical world. And then there is a spiritual world. And the spiritual world you cannot see. You have to understand, you have to experience, you have to intuitively feel its presence. For example, we say we are souls, that we are souls, we are spiritual beings in this human body, right? But you can only see the human body. You cannot see the spiritual being. And so how come so many millions of people across the world feel that they are souls, even though they cannot see it? Because they can experience it, they can understand it, they can intuitively feel the presence of themselves as spiritual beings and not physical beings. And so the soul is an example that there is something spiritual. And so there is a spiritual world. And if you really think about it, there are actually only two kinds of things in the world. There are only two kinds of things in the world. There's spiritual things and physical things. So physical things are things that exist temporarily, and they're given a name because of their temporary existence. For example, let's say this computer. So this computer was put together, all of the hardware of a computer was put together, all of the screen, the keyboard, everything was put together. And because it was put together in a certain form, in a certain physical form, we say computer. And let's take wood, right? Let's take the desk is a wooden desk. And so because this wood was once in the form of a tree and you called it a tree, and then you made it into a desk and now you call it a desk. So depending on the form, physical things have a name. And you bring things together and you put it together and you give it a name and you say computer, you say desk, you say, phone, you say cup, whatever. And so because they're physical, pieces are put together and they're given a name. But you can't say that about spiritual things. Spiritual things cannot be put together. They're whole, always whole. You can't say you bring love together, peace together, safety together, respect together, and say, oh, put it together and say soul. No, soul is always whole. Soul is always eternal. Soul is always imperishable. Soul is always immortal. Soul is always whole. So that is the difference between the physical world and the physical things and spiritual things. So for example, this body, right? This body has a year, it was born, it was put together, it didn't exist before 50 years, it was put together, and it was said, put together in all this shape and form and naturally occurring, of course, in the womb. And it was given the name Shireen. It was given the name body, right? The body, female, Indian, whatever. All of that is happening. And so, but the soul in the body, or the soul that drives the body, is totally separate. It is not given a name because of the shape it's in, because of the country it's born in, because of the gender it's born in. It's not like that. And so we have to understand this very crucial difference between physical and spiritual. This is very important for safety. I'm getting to the safety point in a minute, but this crucial distinction needs to be established, that there are physical things in the world and they have very temporary existence, because the body has a temporary existence. After a few decades, this body is going to be no more. After a few decades, this computer is going to be no more, because they're physical things. They have a lifespan. But the spiritual soul, there are very few actually spiritual things in the world. Soul is one of them. So soul doesn't have a lifespan. It's eternal. There is no lifespan. So when I sit in my reality, so if I think, right, if I, the soul, think that it's just the body, right? If I think I'm female, if I think I'm Indian, Indian American, if I think I am, you know, whatever, a physical label, then I'm not in reality, because reality is something that is eternal. Reality is something that is beyond temporary. So if that is not reality, because after a few decades, this is not going to be reality. So if the soul sits in the reality of it being a soul, then it comes into the spiritual world. And like I said, there are very few things in the spiritual world. There's the soul, there's the supreme soul, there's the interaction between souls, which we call karma. That's also spiritual. And then there is a eternal cosmic play going on. That is also eternal. That is also spiritual because it is eternal. And so anything which is eternal is spiritual. So it's actually can be used interchangeably. Eternal, imperishable, soul, truth, all of those are interchangeable. Spiritual, all of those are interchangeable. So let's go back into the spiritual world. So like I said, so I was lying in the hospital bed and I got transported into the spiritual world. And in this spiritual world, I could see what was happening in the spiritual world. So in the spiritual world, what I was noticing laying on the hospital bed was that our founder, Brahma Baba, and our senior, we used to call her Mama, they were at the foot of the bed, foot of my bed, giving me drishti. And so in the physical world, that's not visible, but I could slip into the spiritual world and I could see, I could feel their drishti, I could see them in front of me. And when I was seeing, okay, so when the doctor, the hematologist came and said, take steroids, we pump you with steroids or you die, which you pick one, which one. And so I took the steroids and I was feeling very, you know, like what is going to happen? There was this feeling, right, of what is going to happen. But when I was aware of the drishti, when I was aware of the spiritual world and I was aware of the drishti, an immediate stillness came over the soul and there was such a feeling of safety. Such a feeling of safety that nothing is going to happen to the soul. Whatever happens to the body is just temporary. And I wasn't even identifying with the body. I wasn't even thinking, there wasn't that consciousness, oh, the body is temporary and this is happening. No, there was just this feeling that I am safe. I'm absolutely safe. And that is when this soul started exploring the spiritual world. Is how can I slip into the spiritual world sitting here talking to all of you? This spiritual world is accessible to everyone. Every single, all the 8 billion souls on the planet, this spiritual world is accessible. But what we do is think about it in the last, not this time, when in the not last hour when you were thinking about safety, but before that, right? Before that, take an hour before that and remember, try to gauge how much of the time you were thinking about physical things that you can actually measure and see, and how much of the time you were thinking about spiritual things. So you will notice that a lot of our time goes in thinking about spiritual things. A lot of our time goes in thinking about spiritual things. And so we cannot, physical things. A lot of our time goes in thinking about physical things. We cannot be thinking about physical things and slip into the spiritual world. So the spiritual world is accessible to everyone. And you can access it the minute you become aware of yourself as a soul, and you become aware that, yes, there is a spiritual world right in front. It cannot be seen, it can be understood, it can be felt, it can be experienced, it can be intuitively felt that it's there. That is the spiritual world, and it is right in front of us. And so every time I access the spiritual world, every time I access the spiritual world, I have everything in abundance, including safety. I have safety in abundance. I don't need to go to other places for safety. I know I am safe because I'm in the spiritual world. So there are few things about the spiritual world we need to understand to be able to access it. One is becoming aware of yourself as a soul, a spiritual being, not a physical body looking for safety. No, there's a different paradigm, no? If you think you're a body and then you're looking for safety, that's a totally different paradigm. Versus if you are in the right awareness, that is reality. The reality is you're a soul. If you're in the awareness of reality, of being a soul, and then you think about safety, it's very different, because you realize that safety is innate to you. You realize that you have in abundance. All you have to do is slip into this world and everything is in abundance. So that's one step. And the second step is awareness of the Supreme Being. Awareness, because the Supreme Being, again, is one of the few things that are spiritual. The Supreme Being is a spiritual being. You want to call God, higher power, whatever you want to call the Supreme Being, or Baba. We say Baba, you can call, don't call him it, right? Apart from it, because he's a real being with a real awareness. And so the Supreme Being is spiritual, just like us, but there's one difference. Doesn't come into the cycle of birth and death like we do. So anyway, so the Supreme Being is accessible to us all the time in this spiritual world. But there is a small yukti, it's a small method. We need to access the spiritual being. So one of very important balances in our spiritual practice is loving and detached. And so when we say balance, it doesn't mean we do two things and say, oh, I can't meditate right now because I have to do something else. No, it's not between not doing and doing. Balance is between two very important things that you have to do equally well. And so this balance of loving and detached, which two very important things you have to do equally well. So to be able to access the Supreme Soul, the soul has to first become detached from the body and detached from the physical world and loving to the Supreme Soul. And then you have abundant ocean of safety, ocean of love, access to the Supreme Soul. But remember, there are two steps to this. You can't say, I'm loving God, and how come I'm not feeling God? No. The first step has to be that you are detached. You detach from the body, detach from the physical world, and then loving. And in that love, right, in that love, in the ocean of love of the Supreme, is complete safety, complete protection. Complete safety and complete protection. People do a lot of very foolish things for safety and security. A lot of very foolish decisions are made, whether in relationships, whether with money, whether with, physical things. A lot of foolish decisions are made because They want to feel safe and secure. And those foolish decisions, there's a tight grip, right? There's a tight grip on the physical body. There's a tight grip on the old world. And when that tight grip is there, then the soul is not able to think clearly. And even though our aim is safety and security, we are not getting that because of that tight grip on the physical body. The soul is gripping the body very tightly. The soul is gripping the old world very tightly. The soul is not going into the spiritual world. And so because we are not going into the spiritual world and we are hanging on to this physical world a lot, then there's a tight grip on it. Then we make a lot of foolish decisions. It's counterintuitive. Safety and security actually are very counterintuitive. How you get safety and security, safety is very counterintuitive. You think if you put 10 alarms in your house and, put this much in your bank account and do this and this and this, then you will be safe. Actually, that's not true. Because easily people, statistics on crime that so many people, even with alarm systems, got, robbed. And, so many people, even with so much this and this and this in the bank, became bankrupt. Because the soul was not clear on making decisions, because there was too tight a grip on the body and the physical world. And so to really be safe, we have to loosen this grip on the body, the labels of the body. The first thing is this gender, this race, this color, all of that grip has to go. The soul has to loosen its grip. And then the soul has to loosen its grip on the world, the physical world, right? There shouldn't be any emotional investment in the physical world. It doesn't matter what happens. Whatever happens, we will be happy, because we have an impact bias. You know what an impact bias is? An impact bias. So we have a lot of biases, right? Unconscious biases going on all the time. An impact bias is a very important bias. Impact bias is when you think that a particular outcome is going to affect you worse or better than it will actually affect you. So let's say, and there's been a lot of research done on this, by the way. And so let's say if someone comes and asks you, hey, if you think you're going to have surgery, how are you going to feel? You will think, oh, I feel so horrible. This is going to happen. That is going to happen. I don't want to have surgery, right? So what you think is the impact of the surgery is much worse. And then if someone says, hey, someone's giving you a free tickets to go on a cruise to the Bahamas, and you will think, oh, I will be so happy. I will do this and I will do that. I will take time off, and I much needed time, and I will be so relaxed and so peaceful, and all of the things that are going on in my life will all disappear. So what is the bias that we have? That the impact of going on a cruise we think is going to be much higher than what it is, and the impact of surgery we think is much worse than what it is. But it's actually a bias, because what research has found is that it doesn't matter whether you go on a cruise or whether you get surgery. The impact of it, the soul has a certain immune system that allows it to synthesize happiness out of whatever happens. We have the capability of synthesizing happiness of anything that happens. So we have to allow the soul to synthesize that happiness. And so when we are holding on to the physical world, right, what are we doing? We want certain outcomes in the physical world. And the reason why we want some outcomes in the physical world is we have an impact bias. We think that particular outcome is going to give us happiness. But no, it's not. Because whatever happens, you, the soul, are powerful. You're a powerful being. You, the soul, are so powerful that you have the capacity to synthesize happiness of whatever happens. It doesn't matter what's happening, you have the capacity. So to really feel safe, you have to release this tight grip on the outcomes in the physical world. You have to let go. You have to be detached from the physical world. That is what is detachment means, is you're not expecting different outcomes. You're not, your whole emotional investment is not on the outcomes of the physical world. So that is a very important aspect of safety, is to lose this grip on the physical world and keep going into the spiritual world, keep becoming aware of yourselves as souls, remembering the Supreme Soul, and keep going into the spiritual world. And the next aspect of this, of safety, is this idea that having all of these, alarm systems, whatever, right? Physical things, like I know people who, carry a gun. It's a big gun country, right? The US, because they feel safe. And so they do all of these things to feel safe. I want to tell you a story. So Dadi Janki, our head, used to be our head. She became Avyak. She became an angel in 2020 March. And Dadi Janki went to Brazil and was doing a public program in Brazil. And the public program was for people of, I think, the law enforcement. And Dadi was asked this question, so what will you do if you get mugged? Because Dadi was giving her usual, very mystical class, right? Dadi was very mystical. You asked her a question, it took you a while to understand the answer. Anyway, she was very mystical, and she gave this, so she was giving this very mystical class, and they were really loving it. And then this law enforcement brother asked, so what will you do if you get mugged? And Dadi, with so much conviction, so much nischay, said, I will not get mugged. And everyone could feel it, that Dadi will never get mugged, because she is vibrating on a very high level. And that is the secret of this time. This is the third thing I wanted to mention, which is spiritual, that there's a time. We are in a transformative time. And in this transformative time, everything you do gets multiplied back to you. Everything good you do, it gets multiplied back to you 1,000-fold. So every transformation that happens gets multiplied back to you. And there is a protection. There is God's protection, not only God's protection, the cosmic play's protection, that time is protecting you. Because the more you vibrate on a higher frequency, the more people you are providing solace and safety to. Right? Like, let's say Dadi Gulzar, who used to be one of our heads, Dadi Janki, Dadi Gulzar, you saw them. So, what was that soul's name? I forgot his name. Power versus Force. He wrote this book. But anyway, there was this American gentleman who wrote this book, and he talked about these consciousness vibrations, right? He spoke about consciousness vibrations. I have his book there. I will tell you in a minute what his name was. Anyway, he talks about consciousness vibrations. He says the highest vibrational consciousness is 1,000, right? So let's say you're angry and upset and bitter and stressed. What is your vibration? You're vibrating somewhere between a 2 and 300. If you are angry and stressed and upset and all of that, that is what you're vibrating at. And let's say you're you're thinking about higher things, like even intellectual things, your work and all of these things. What are you vibrating at? You're vibrating between 300 and 400, right? And then 400 and 500, again, it's a higher level. Let's say you're thinking about values, virtues, all of that, values, right? You're thinking you're vibrating at 400 to 500. And above 500 is you're just love and you're really connected with the Supreme Soul, all of those things, right? Above 500. And Dadi Janki, Dadi Gulzar, all these souls would have been vibrating above 900. That's their vibration. It was not above 900. So what happens is the more you go up, right? The more you go up in your vibration, what doesn't serve you will automatically go away. What doesn't serve the soul will automatically go away. That is the design of this cosmic play. The design of the cosmic play is to protect these souls that are beginning to vibrate at higher levels. And so whatever is not serving you will go away, but many times we want to hold on to it, right? Because we are attached to it. So we want to hold on to it, we are attached to it, and we think that whatever was my vibration 2 years ago is the same. No, every time you make spiritual progress, you're vibrating. And the reason Dadi Janki was able to say with so much nischay, so much conviction, I will not be mugged, is because she knew her vibration was protecting a lot of souls. And she knew that the cosmic play will protect her at all costs. Because that is what, it's reciprocity. The cosmic play works on the principles of reciprocity. You provide safety, you will be safe. You vibrate at that level, provide safety to all these souls, you will be safe. Because at that level, right, above 900 level, you're really protecting millions, billions of souls. Just by your vibration, you are protecting these souls. And so, to have faith in the spiritual world, have faith in the time we are in, have faith in the cosmic play, and have faith in this higher vibration. Keep moving up higher and higher and higher. And as you keep moving up higher and higher and higher, you will be safe, because there's nothing else but safety. No one can touch you. Absolutely no one can touch you. Because that is where that is where real safety is. That is where real safety is. One last thing. I'm looking at time. I do have a little bit more time. I want to also give a chance if anyone has any questions. Truth. Let's talk about truth. So we were talking about the spiritual world, right? There's the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, to access the spiritual world, we need to understand truth. What is truth? So truth is, there are a few characteristics of truth. One of the characteristics of truth is that it is eternal. It is not bound by time. For example, I am a soul, and the soul is truth, right? The soul is not bound by time. I am a soul. That statement is true today. It is true 5,000 years from now. It's true 5,000 years before now. It was true 1,000,000 years before now. It's true 1,000,000,000 years from now. I am a spiritual. I am a soul. I'm a spiritual being. And as a spiritual being, there is no lifespan. Okay. And so after this, after truth, this truth, right? Not only, so this truth is not bound by time. Let's say when we say God is truth, or God is spiritual, or God is, the supreme soul. So everything about God also is not bound by time. But if I say I'm this body, that is bound by time, because this body, it will die. At some point, it will cease to exist. So that's not bound by time. Or any of the labels of the body, that's not bound by time. So truth means something that is imperishable, something that is not bound by time. That is one, is truth. The second aspect of truth is it is the same for all human beings. I'm a soul, you're a soul, everyone in the world is a soul. That's it. Right? It is the same for all human beings. I can't say, let's say I'm an Indian female, right? I'm an Indian American female. That is not true for everyone. I can't say that for all of you. For all of you, it's different. So that is not truth. And the third, which is very important, is when you reflect on truth, then you become divine. Truth will make you divine. Just by thinking about truth, by coming into the awareness of truth, it will make you divine. And so one of the most important things about safety is how can I give safety? Because when I give safety, that is when I receive safety. Without giving safety, you cannot receive safety. And one of the things, the most important thing you as a spiritual being having a human experience can do is provide a safe space for people. Like this Zoom session is a safe space for people. So you provide a safe space for people, because when you provide a safe space for people, that is when the reciprocity of the cosmic plays that you will get the safety back. And so to be able to provide a safe space for people, you absolutely cannot look at their gender, their color, their race, their educational status, how much they have, how much they don't have, none of that stuff. You have to become completely soul conscious. Whoever is coming into that space has to be completely soul conscious. If you are soul conscious, then you're providing this safe space. And when you provide safe spaces, then you receive safety back. So that is a very important aspect of safety. Okay, after all said and done, right? I want to finish with two things. What is the safest space? What is the safest space in the entire planet Earth? I would say God's heart. You sit in God's heart, and you cannot sit in God's heart by being body conscious, right? You cannot sit in God's heart by thinking of the labels of the body, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to work. God's heart is the safest place. And Dadi Janki always used to say, Saf and safe. If you are saf, you're clean, you're safe. Shanti. You have any questions? You have any comments? You want to share anything? Manoj Bhai, what is next?
Yeah, wonderful. So safe and safe, that's a good takeaway. It's the biggest takeaway from today's talk, I must say. Yeah, I have quite a few questions. I will read out for you. I won't take names because people may not feel comfortable. The first question is, I practice a lot of being soul conscious on the Supreme Soul, trying to elevate my consciousness, etc. I'll read it out as it is written because I feel it's quite elaborate, but we need to know what the context is. So I try to elevate my consciousness, but at the night, in the middle of the night, I sometimes see dark entities. And then I have to send them light, call on God, etc., etc. And if I'm doing that all the time in the morning, I feel very exhausted. So can you explain or try to tell me why, if I'm practicing meditation regularly and sending light to the world, why should I experience this, that when I go to rest, even when I write to God before bed, so on and so forth, why am I experiencing this? Because she's saying, sorry, it's too massive, the question. The spirit world is not just angels. It's
What?
also astral, something astral, where there are dark entities as well. So do you want to elaborate on this aspect of the question, what she's asking?
It's a few things that are very important is one time Moini Didi, who is one of our leaders, I went to Moini Didi with this question many years ago, maybe 20, 25 years ago. And that what if you see all of these disembodied spirits, right? And she said, don't pay attention, don't give attention, don't think about them. You cannot think about them. Don't pay attention to that, right? That is one. And what I've noticed with my own practice is you have to become a tiny point. Don't think about giving light at that point. Just become that tiny point of light, just become incorporeal, just become that tiny, tiny point of light and just be. You have to practice that during the day. How long can you be in that awareness of just being a tiny point of light? Just a tiny point of light. And so that should be the practice, not giving light. Don't think about them. Don't think about what is going on. Just as soon as you notice something, become a tiny point of light.
Okay, wonderful. So another question is, without being soul conscious, can I get a place in God's heart while practicing for being soul conscious? I hope you got.
No, without soul consciousness, nothing happens. Soul consciousness is the basis of everything, right? Because what happens is I was just reading a Fetzer Institute study just a few days ago. Guess how much percentage of the people in the US believe in God? About 80%. In India, let's take India. Guess how much percentage of people in India believe in God? I would say 90, 95. It's very big, right? Many, many people. So all these people who believe in God are actually remembering God. But would you say they're all sitting in God's heart? No. To accurately remember God is important. So to be able to accurately remember God, you have to become soul conscious. Without soul consciousness, sitting in God's heart is not possible.
Okay, perfect. So Sarabjit, you raised your hand. So I'll just take the question because I don't think we have time for people to ask orally. So your question you have mentioned, thank you for putting it. How to feel or realize all relationships with God? Please explain.
So that's advanced. That's an advanced question. You know, what happens is many times we are remembering the Supreme Soul, we are becoming aware of ourselves as souls, but we are really stuck in our story. We are stuck in our story. And so every time we are stuck in our story, right? The story could be anything. The story could be your gender, your color, I'm married, I'm not married, I don't have money, I have money, I have children, these are my children, I need to take care of my children, this and that, right? The story, right? So every time we are stuck in a story, we are actually establishing a bar in a cage. We are establishing a bar in a cage and we are trying to fly while sitting in the cage. And when we try to fly sitting in a cage, how's that possible? Not possible. Because we are so stuck in the story. We're so stuck in our own story. this happened, that happened, this didn't happen, I was born here, I do this work, and I'm this old, and all of that, right? All of that is the story of this karmic narrative of this life. The karmic narrative of this life really cages us. And so to really have divine experiences, we have to Om Shanti, the story. No story. Only child of God. That's the only story should be in your head. I am a soul, I'm a child of God, and that's it. Nothing else. People wake you up in the middle of the night. Who are you? Soul, child of God. And then you will see divine experiences. You will have beautiful experiences.
Yes, thank you. So no storytelling time. It's spiritual. Spiritual time is not storytelling, just be in the point and experience the point. Fantastic. So I think we have to put an end to the questions here. And I would request now our seniors, we have with us Dr. Ashok Mehta and Sister Claudia. So both of you to propose the vote of thanks. Over to both of you.
Shireen, man, you are fascinating. Fascinating is a very mild word. You have said something which is fundamental, that break all the bandhans, all the ties which you have around, physical and mental and everything. I think you just be a spiritual being and remain in that state as long as you can. And even in today's Muli, Baba says that he himself was finding it difficult. He used to forget, if you remember today's Muli.
Yes, yes.
I think you have expounded it from your personal experience. You seem to be a very close being an angel. You are an
Thank
angel.
you. Thank you for the blessing.
I enjoyed your talk, every minute of it, because it was not only a story, it was just an experience you have shared, a deep experience. And I was curious to know about your bruising. I thought that you were talking at one point of acute leukemia. That was, the way
Yeah,
you...
they thought it was leukemia, but it wasn't. It was
I thought
idiopathic. They
it was
couldn't
that.
find what it was. They couldn't find what it was. I was in the hospital for many days. And then after the drishti from Mama Baba, everything went away. I mean, pretty soon I left the hospital. It was fine.
As a matter of fact, we are going to have a conference with Tata Memorial Hospital staff on February 11 on science and spirituality. I wish a person like you come and just narrate them, what you narrated us just now. People go into, of course, you have to be a little spiritual to understand spirituality. It's fascinating. But surprisingly, I've never met you before. Never have I not even heard your name. I don't know. Because I've been around for more than 30 years.
Yes, more than 30 years. Just the other day, I was thinking I have 900,000 soulmates. So 900,000 soulmates. All of you are my soulmates. So even though I haven't met you before, I feel I know you.
Well, that may be, but I was in Florida also, and more than once. I don't know how.
Come back. All of you are invited to come to Florida.
Part of Florida are you in? Which part of Florida are you in?
Tampa. Tampa, Florida.
Anyway, such a pleasure listening to you, watching you very closely on a Zoom. You're only a few inches away, a few less than a feet away. Thank you very much. Claudia, Ben, it's all for you now.
Oh, Shanti, it was so nice to hear from you, Shireen. And I was remember the time when we are in this village together, and also when we listened to you talking in this class. So, but actually, I quite like lots of everything you talk. But one thing that I did not know, and I always talk like when I see someone in a negativity talk or whatever, or doing something negative, I always say, I don't want to be the same level. I want to be another level. But another thought that was security. That you taught me today something is quite very important, that when we are not on that lower level is our safety too. So I thought it was only safety for I don't get my level down, but no, it's safety in everything, because when we come close to Baba and also come to close to the Supreme Being, so we are in a safety. So it was quite nice to see in another level, what another way of see what means to make sure that our level is high, not low level. And so make sure that our actions and words and whatever we talk and do is in a higher level. And it's like Daddy said, was that nothing is going to happen to me because she's always in a high level. So I quite like to hear that. Beside everything you spoke about truth and faith and everything, but when it came to those vibrations, because I always think and thought about vibrations, but I never thought those vibrations also is of the safety and security for us. So thank you very much for being with us today. It was a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you, all of you. And before we move on to into the meditative experience on safety with Sister Shireen, let me just do the announcements. So within 12 hours from now, you're all invited. These are silence retreats. They are based on Brahma Kumari's teachings, Brahma Kumari's philosophy. So it is just happening in next 12 hours, India time 9 to 11 a.m. and West Coast 7:30 to 9:30. And moving on our journey further, the next episode will be on reverence, episode 79. We call it Shraddha in Hindi. We have with us a very senior Raj Yogi, Sister Denise, joining from France. And following that, we'll have the workshop again with another new Raj Yogi speaker, again from US, Manhattan, Sister Rona. That will be the week following after that, 16 December. So we will be sending you the invitations and the emails as well. And this is our elusive calendar of December. Thanks to Sister Kosha for sharing it with us. And please feel free to contact us on our email addresses and the websites. They are mentioned in front of you. And also, if you want to browse any of the previous workshops, we have done 78 now. It's like, we don't know, it's like 3 years we have done them. And looking back, when I also click and look at, like, it's like seems new all the time. And the episodes by the senior Rajogis, that's the link, omshanti.tk, and the workshops, that's the link. So I'll just stop sharing the screen, and I would request Sister Anu to please take the photograph, the digital online photograph. If all of you can just switch on your video cameras, please, it will be good.
Surely we don't want to miss it. And somebody posted the chart. It was a mind-blowing class. So it was a mind-blowing class. Thank you so much, Sister Shireen, for really taking us so deep into the realization and feelings. We are all feeling safe, free from all the fear, right? So let's see the shine, the smile. Taking the photo. If you want to be in the photo with Sister Shireen for this class, please switch on your video. People are still switching on, but yes, I got it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. So we'll go in the meditation mode now. And do you want me to play some soft music or some commentary you will be giving, or Sadrishti, whatever?
Okay. A 5-minute commentary?
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Okay. Very soft music. The music shouldn't be too loud.
I think we'll just be silent, yeah, because it
Okay.
interferes.
Take a deep breath and release that breath. And become aware of a light behind the eyes, in between your eyebrows. And that light is you, the soul, becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. And now you're just a tiny spark of light. You've slipped into the spiritual world with this awareness. Where everything is in abundance and you're connected to the source of protection. The ocean of love is right in front of you, and with rays of love enveloping you, the soul, and in this space, in this world, you feel so safe. You're detached from the body, you're detached from the physical world. You're detached from the body, you're detached from the physical world and connected to the Supreme. And just allow yourself to feel safe and secure, even if it is for a few moments. Just bask in this comfort. Just relax into it. Let go of any feelings of striving and wanting to hold on to things. Just let go and relax in the presence of the ocean of love, the comforter of hearts. And in this space, in this world, you are at home, you are safe and secure. And this is your home, this is your true home. Whenever you get a moment, just come back into this space and just relax and allow the Supreme Soul to protect you and guide you. Take a deep breath, and whenever you're ready, come back to here and now. Om Shanti.
So thank you so much immensely once again for your, thank you.
Om Shanti.
Yes.